Good evening, everyone, and I call the City Council Committee of the Whole meeting for July 28th, 2018 to order. At this time, for our moment of silence, I recently, over the weekend, for my daughter, had got married. We had a wedding here, but then had a reception in New York, and it was interesting. She lives in Brooklyn. It's interesting to get the chance of all that activity that is New York, but we were so glad to get home to Davenport, Iowa. And I think we have to sometimes, when we're here, we sometimes forget how great this community is. The warmth of the community, the people that meet us, the respect amongst each other. Not that I didn't get any respect in New York, but very little, actually. So it's exciting to be home and understand how beautiful our community is. So with that, think about how great it is for us right here and realizing we wish everyone had this opportunity. For that, a moment of silence, please. Thank you very much. Alderman Kluhl, would you lead us in a Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Jackie, would you please call the roll?
Ambrose.
Here.
Condon. Rawson.
Here.
Dickman.
Here.
Matson.
Here.
Grip.
Here.
McGinnis.
Here.
Kluhl.
Here.
Tompkins.
Here.
Dunn.
Here.
9 present, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. And again, I want to wish you all a good evening. And as we begin this meeting of our City Council, I would again like to welcome all those in attendance and also those who are viewing the meeting on television or on the internet. We respectfully welcome all of your comments and opinions, and please keep in mind that as you talk to the council, you're also sharing your thoughts with fellow Davenporters and with viewers throughout the region by way of our TV broadcast. We really are happy that you're participating in your city government and ask that your participation reflect the common desire we all share to make Davenport an even greater place for all of our citizens. For the children, adults, seniors, families, and throughout our entire community, those in attendance and those watching at home, I thank you for joining us. At this time, we ask that you turn off or silence your cell phones and other electronic handheld devices, as they can interfere with the audio system and be disruptive here in the chamber. If you wish to address the council on a specific item that appears on a committee agenda, you are encouraged to do so during that standing committee. You will also have an opportunity to address the City Council under Public with Business, which that portion of the meeting will happen at the end, which will occur during that time at the end of our meeting. When addressing the council, I ask that you step to the podium, wait to be recognized by myself or the committee chair, and speak to the council as a body and not to any single member. We will ask that you limit your remarks to no more than 5 minutes, and I ask that everyone observe, and I know you all will, the commonly accepted rules of courtesy, decorum, dignity, and good taste. So again, thank you very much. Do we have a city administrator update this evening?
Nothing this evening, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. We have 4 public hearings and a little bit of information. We have public hearings, and then we'll go through the discussion agenda. For public hearing, it gives the public an opportunity to make sure the issues that we're dealing with, part of our overall transparency. Many of these items will also appear under the discussion agenda later in the meeting. So with that, we want to begin with these 4 public hearings, and I'm going to turn it over for community development to Alderman Grip.
Thank you, Your Honor. We have 2 public hearings in community development this evening. Both are related to the Portillo's development. I'll read the first public hearing. The developer has a presentation or would like to say some words, and then we'll open it up for public comment. So item number 1, public hearing for the ordinance for case number REZ 18-08, being the request of William Torchia on behalf of WCT Investments, Davenport Series, LLC, for rezoning on 6.5 acres, more or less, located along the south of East 53rd Street and east of Lorton Avenue from R1 Low Density Dwelling District to PDD Planned Development District to facilitate commercial development. At this time, we'll welcome the developer up. If you'd like to say a few words.
I'm starting out first, folks. Candy Pasternak, resident of the 6th Ward, employee in the 3rd Ward. I'm here on behalf of WCT Investments, Davenport Series LLC, in support of the Planning and Zoning recommendation currently before the Committee of the Whole. We have with us tonight to provide the presentation that Alderman Grip mentioned, Devin Birch, who is the project engineer. Also available in chambers is Willie Torsha on behalf of WCT Investments, David Wright, the traffic engineer, and Peggy Hart, a representative of one of the potential end users of this tract of development. And at this time, I'll turn it over to Mr. Birch.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Your Honor, all aldermen, for the opportunity to talk a little bit about an exciting project that we hope you are excited about too for Davenport. And my name is Devin Birch. I'm with Austin Engineering. We do have an office here in Davenport, and we have a home office in Peoria, Illinois. I'm the development engineer for Willie Torsha for this development. I'll give a brief overview. I trust you guys have kind of been following the Planning Commission presentations and things, so I'm not going to go into that full-length presentation like I did for that Planning Commission, but I want to hit some highlights about our development and our team and what we've done since we first started to look at this particular piece of land on 53rd. First, I want to say a little bit of something about WCT and Willie Torsha. They're not new to the area. There's multiple developments that he's been involved with in his 25-year career. Men's Warehouse here in town in the Sports Clips area or development there, Aspen Dental, the Vitamin Shop in Chipotle, FedEx and Office Athletico, and the Natural Grocer. So he's not new to the area and definitely is willing and capable to do this project. So what you see is about 6.5 acre development situated on 53rd between, Lorton is on our boundary to the west, and our proposal is to vacate a portion of Fairhaven. And then what you see is the land use plan in front of you that does highlight one of the potential restaurant tours who is looking at this development. And this plan has essentially stayed the same since we first presented it to city staff and the Planning Commission. But what has changed is, as we completed the traffic study, there were some ideas and suggestions they had about our entry. And I'll point out our main entry is going to be at the signalized intersection at the same spot that the new Costco entry is going to be. We do have a right in and a right out only to the east side of the development where the Fairhaven right-of-way used to be. But those are our only access points to 53rd for the whole development. We considered a Lorton access, but after pretty early on, we realized that was not the right thing to do with Lorton and the community, so we did nix that idea. So we are only accessing 53rd with our development. Generally, it's a commercial corridor. 53rd Street's a busy street, and this is all residential right now, but I don't think it's a stretch to see that this is a commercial corridor, and so we want to be a part of it. Certainly tenants that we've been speaking with so far want to be a part of it, and they're excited about it too. I guess I would mention Portillo's. It's kind of been known as the Portillo's project or whatever, but they are just a potential tenant right now. There is no lease signed yet. They are excited about the opportunity here, so I just mentioned that real quick. Concerns we've heard, we did hold a neighborhood meeting because we felt it was important to get to know what all the neighbors thought of what we were proposing. The main concerns that came out of that were traffic, the buffering of our property to the residential to the south, lighting, and stormwater. So I feel like we've addressed each one of those, and I'll just briefly touch on how we did that. But we've met with the neighbors, not only in that neighborhood meeting, but we've met with many neighbors in this area that's specifically south of where we're at, just because we want to be the best neighbors that we can be. Down to what type of plant are you going to put on the back of this? And I don't know about you guys in your experience, but in my experience as a development engineer, not a lot of developers do that. But that's just the mantra of Willie Torsha and how he operates. He wants to try to make the best out of every situation that he possibly can within reason. So when it comes to buffering, we do have the 25-foot buffer strip on the south that will of course be planted, and we're working with the with the landowners on those plans. We do have a 6-foot tall fence planned along that side as well. The property generally will have some retaining walls on the southeast corner and the southwest corner. So it's got a good buffering plan. I think we've satisfied every neighbor we've talked with about that. Lighting. The best thing we can do for lighting is shield. And the way we can shield is using the right fixtures and using the right type of light, which is LED lighting. So that's what we're going to do. And we've put that as a condition coming out of Planning Commission. Traffic. We've looked at the traffic in detail, and this long story short, there's a huge traffic report that you're welcome to read, and our traffic engineer is here for later on if you have questions for him. But 53rd is a busy street, but it still remains to have a good level of service after we're here. Lastly, stormwater. The biggest thing I can say about stormwater is you guys have a great ordinance in place to protect neighboring properties from development like ours. We're going to exceed that ordinance. We're going to install an underground stormwater detention system, which allows us to try to focus and put as much water back into the earth as we possibly can, as much as the water, the earth will accept it. And we're going to make sure that when we release water, we're going to do so into public right-of-ways and not onto properties. And in those public right-of-ways, we have determined that we're going to reduce those rates as required by ordinance, and we're making an area that does not have any detention right now whatsoever. We're going to be giving it some extreme amounts of detention to the tune of, in one spot 40,000 cubic feet, and in another spot over 30,000 cubic feet of water storage underground. Not a nuisance or an area where you'd look and see, well, look at all those cattails and whatnot, like some detention basins get. This is all an underground system, and is able to clean the water in addition to storing it and controlling the release. Again, during the committee, if you guys have questions in more detail, I'm here, Dave is here, who's the traffic engineer. Again, just to reiterate, I think this is a great opportunity for Davenport to take an area and what I would consider smart growth, instead of going out into some green field area and taking a farm field out of production. You've got a highly used corridor here that we are not going to add any public infrastructure to the city of Davenport. That has to be maintained, and we have no public money in this. So I think it's a great smart growth opportunity. And again, we're here for questions later if you have them. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to comment on this public hearing? Step to the lectern, state your name, address, or ward, please.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Michael Malloy. I'm a Quad City attorney who represents Craig and Charlotte McManus, who reside at 4728 Lorton Avenue, as well as 10 other residential property owners on Lorton Avenue and Fairhaven Avenue. My clients are opposed to this particular rezoning that's going from an R1 low-density residential district to a PDD, Planned Development Commercial District. They are opposed to this particular rezoning because it will encroach upon the peaceful enjoyment of their property and be detrimental to the monetary value of their real properties and residences. The present street infrastructure that you have directly south of 53rd Street is in too substandard a condition to even handle this PUD development, consisting of probably 3 restaurants and a retail store, consisting of 27,254 square feet of commercial development. Now, you heard the developer talk about the plan and zone recommendation. Let me tell you, after a long 2.5-hour meeting before the Davenport Plan and Zone Commission, the commission was at a 4-4 tie on this, and the chairman of the commission voted to recommend in favor. So this particular rezoning barely passed through the Plan and Zone Commission on a 5-4 vote, the closest margin that you could get with 9 members present on June 19th of this year before the commission. The divided Plan and Zone Commission vote reflects the belief that of 4 members of that board that this was the wrong location for this mega development in the present infrastructure location. Now, don't get my clients wrong. We are not opposed to Portillo's coming to Davenport. We are not opposed to retail development. However, shoehorning this type of mega development in a currently zoned residential district will create great traffic problems as well as great stormwater runoff problems. You have the Costco development presently going on the north side of 53rd Street, directly across from this development. That development hasn't even been completed yet, and you have the developers submitting a traffic study to you folks that is fatally flawed because Costco is not even finished their building and infrastructure, and so until they do, you can't really comprehend the traffic and the traffic backups that you will have on 53rd Street from both the Costco development as well as this development if it's approved. You're going to have, you don't even have a center turn lane here on 53rd Street like you presently do on Elmore Avenue for traffic, where you have two-way traffic north and south and you have a center turn lane. This particular street development I don't think envisions any turn lane like Elmore Avenue has right now, even though the traffic we believe will be similar to the traffic that is occurring on Elmore south of 53rd Street at the present time. Secondly is the stormwater issue. My clients already have large amounts of stormwater runoff created from the developments on 53rd Street. The terrain here going from north to south significantly slopes off from 53rd Street down to 46th Street. This particular development is going to exacerbate the present stormwater condition and cause flooding in residential neighborhoods on both 53rd Street and Fairhaven under the present situation. My clients have considered how this particular development should be modified if the City Council deemed it worthy of rezoning passage. First of all, we believe that the area south of the intersection of 53rd and Lorton on Lorton Avenue should be vacated, similar to their proposal to vacate Fairhaven Street and install a cul-de-sac on the north end of Lorton Avenue, allowing emergency vehicles only to enter and exit from the north intersection of Lorton Avenue and 53rd Street. You already have the proposal by the developer who wants to vacate Fairhaven Avenue from the intersection of 53rd and Fairhaven down to the end of this development. So this would be similar to that, only it would apply, of course, to Lorton Avenue on the west side of this development. Second, we believe that the repaving of the blacktop on Lorton Avenue and Fairhaven Road between 53rd Street and 46th Street should be done by the city. The street presently the street surfaces on both of these streets are in a deteriorated condition, a substandard condition, and have not been properly maintained by the city in the past. They clearly need repaving with this kind of development proposal going on so that these streets are brought up to a standard condition as far as their street paving is concerned. Third, we would propose to install a three-way stop sign at the intersection of 51st Street and Lorton Avenue for traffic safety. That would be the intersection of Lorton, approximately 2 blocks south of 53rd Street at the intersection of Lorton and 51st Street. We also would propose to install speed bumps on Lorton Avenue between 46th Street and 53rd Street. And finally, fifth, we would recommend prohibiting any commercial truck traffic from traversing Lorton Avenue or Fairhaven Avenue as part of this development. These are 5 conditions that we have proposed on this rezoning. If you look at your staff proposal, you already have, I believe, 9 conditions that staff is proposing. So this rezoning is going forward with conditions. If the rezoning does go forward and is approved by the council, these additional 5 conditions should be added by the city council to lower the impact of the residential neighborhood by this commercial development. Thank you for your time, and I'm sure there may be some other individuals that want to address you on this topic.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the council, and to everyone else here present. My name is Charlotte McManus, and I reside at 4728 Lorton Avenue with my husband, Craig, 56 years. We purchased our property on Lorton, a new home, in 1972, and we loved it out there. We kept buying property up. Now we have almost 3 acres of beautiful prairie grasses, wildflowers, and scenes of flowers, and spruce trees. It is truly my paradise. But what I fear, it's soon to become my hell. Even though I've raised my children, entertained my grandchildren, raised my Great Danes, wildlife, it's been absolutely magnificent. Even though the roads are abhorrent, I used to run 1,000 miles many, many years ago out there and loved every minute of it. I love my neighbors. They've worked hard. We've put money into our properties. We love our properties. I have not had the flooding that many of them have had up by 51st and Fairhaven. The runoff continues to get worse since all the building has taken place, and it's going to get worse. And I'm so worried about the traffic. I know that there's going to be fatalities. You just can't. I hope you've all driven down these areas and seen what people have done to their properties and how much money they put into them and how much they love it and what it means to us to be in an area. I have friends from all over the country that come, or from the city, and come. They say, how can you have this so close to 53rd or Jersey Ridge Road and have this land that's so wonderful? Well, it's not always easy, but we've done it. And people out there have a purpose. They have dedicated their lives, and we're not all old out there anymore. There are 30-year-olds, there are 40, 50, and 60-year-olds, and there are children again. As I said, I raised my children. They took school buses out there. It's a lovely area. My hope is that you had gotten to see it. You know, I'm a former realtor with Mel Foster. I do not object to expansion, and I know how important it is to the city. But I really think that you need to take a look of what it might do. Mike Malloy has told you what I have no objections to any of this restaurants coming in or Costco if they take care of us first. He's given you the things that we need on the street, and I will reiterate that. But I just want to tell you something. If I were 30 years younger, 20, even 10, I'd be running for national or state or city council or something, and I'd win. I'd have a platform of the people, by the people, and for the people, all the time. You need to give people who've invested their lives and their families into these situations. Just don't let entrepreneurs come in, and I know you want city development, but don't ram it down the throats of wonderful individuals who just need to exist. And take a look at the things that we want. Like I said, we need a stop sign at Lorton and 51st. We need all kinds of things. The runoff on the waters have just been so bad that even on Lorton, the beautiful homes on Lorton, they have almost wide ditches. They look like ravines, and it's dangerous. It's dangerous to our animals, to our children, to everybody. And as we said, the pledge tonight, and justice for all was the last of the words. Why can't you consider justice for all sometime? I know I've heard that all of you have already made up your decision on a lot of this, but can't you even consider, if you lived there and you had all this invested, can you consider how important it would be to you to stop some of this? There's got to be another answer. Now, I've spoken at every council meeting, and I respectfully, I will stop talking, and I respect all of your opinion, but I would like you to respect our opinion and how we feel. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there anyone else from the public who wishes to comment on this public hearing? Step to the lectern, state your name and address or ward.
Good evening. I'm Travis Hunter-Zuber. I'm a resident of the 6th Ward. I did speak at the Zoning Commission meeting, and I will say this is not, my basis for talking to you is not in my backyard. I don't live close to here, but I am a user of the 53rd Corridor, and I do understand the issues there. And I'm going to give you a slightly different approach to what I see happening here and what has happened, and maybe there's a way we can move forward. First of all, it'll be a little shocking, but I agree and understand why the Zoning Commission made the decision they did. Given their scope and the guidelines for zoning, and that this is residential property already on a corridor and in a commercial development area, they really had no basis from a zoning perspective for denying this request. Unfortunately, their scope does not include fixing existing problems. So I totally understand where the Zoning Commission came from, the work the staff did. There's really not much you can argue about there. What I am saying is I think our timing is wrong. If you look at what's going on today, we know we have existing problems in that neighborhood to the south with road conditions, traffic, and water. We also know that we do have some traffic issues on 53rd. By the way, I'll be the first to say we will never have a perfect 53rd Avenue. If everybody tries to go to Costco at 1 o'clock on Saturday, I think we will have a little bit of a delay. So I'm not trying to say those can't exist. But we have traffic issues on 53rd already. Now we have the unknown of what is Costco really going to do traffic-wise and stormwater-wise. We know the studies have been done. We know the engineers have designed for certain runoffs, but we really don't know the actual results until Costco's up and running. And now, on top of that, we're getting ready to compound this with another development where I have to agree that I am a little suspect of the traffic study because you've got a statistical model stacked on top of another statistical model, and we have another case of an engineering model of groundwater runoff, and we really don't know if that's going to work like they should. So unfortunately, the Zoning Commission scope doesn't include fixing or addressing existing problems. So what I'd like to encourage us to do is something that I learned from one of the great managers I worked with is sometimes is there a way that we can, instead of saying no, say not now. And once we get the problems fixed down in the Lorton and Fairmont area, and we know what Costco's going to do, then yes, let's move ahead. It's a good place to develop. It's just not the right time. Thank you.
Patricia Brunner, 4840 Fairhaven Court. Tom, I always enjoy what you have to say at all the meetings, but I do respectfully differ with his opinion tonight, but I always love what he has to say. First, before I start, I really want to address something that Rich and I talked about yesterday. So, Rich sent me an email that said, I know this is not the outcome you are hoping for, but now that the 9 properties on 53rd have been sold, it is certain that the area will become commercial. Is that true? Because if so, I'd rather just leave than talk to you guys. Is that true?
No, that's what we're here to discuss and make a decision upon.
Okay. I just want to make sure my alderman was aware. Thank you. Okay, I will continue. At the last zoning committee meeting, the developer's lawyer, Tom Kaspernick, I'm probably saying that wrong, and I wish he was here, he asked us to focus on zoning, and I respect that. So my next few minutes, I'm going to talk about the reasons why the developer wants to rezone this and why I respectfully disagree, okay? So, the first one, 53rd is a commercial corridor. Yep, that is correct, and it has been for a long time. So what's the difference now? That's all I have more to say on this. And these are all from like a presentation that they presented. I'm just working my way down their presentation. Project infrastructure will be privately owned. So throughout this process, I've learned about St. Ambrose and that the infrastructure would be similar to what had gone on for St. Ambrose. However, the cost was not just private at St. Ambrose. It was split. The city shared $642,000. St. Ambrose had $814,000. And then we also received a grant from Iowa Department of Agriculture and Land that covered the remaining. So it wasn't just private. So when all along I'm told to look at St. Ambrose, it doesn't seem like St. Ambrose was just covered by the developer or the private company. And another large difference I see when looking at St. Ambrose was that there were new, larger storm drains that were installed on Locust. That is from the Quad City Times. I don't know that for sure, but that's what I read from the Quad City Times. That is not part of this, and that is part of the problem. This water is being dumped into our ditches. It is not a large storm drain that was installed. Okay, the next thing. No public money in this project. So I've been doing some research of different Portillos that have just been recently built. One was in Peoria by the developer. So this is his hometown. This wasn't free. This wasn't free to the city of Peoria. This included a 1% sales tax that was added. That goes back to the developer to help cover his $5 million in expenses. It was not free. So although their proposal, which we've been reminded all along, it's just a proposal, it's not set in stone. Their proposal doesn't include this yet. Why would Peoria have to pay but not Davenport? It seems that no Portillo's is free. Normal, Illinois, their city is paying $2.4 million after interest. It's not free. Okay, the next bullet point. Highest and best use of our taxes if they develop this property. Well, can I just say that we should have our citizens decide what's the best use of our taxes and our property? So I found it interesting that in their presentation, it says WCT properties that were developed but not owned. The WCT properties have never been held for more than 3 years. They come in and they develop and they leave. That's what a developer is. I get that. That makes sense. But please don't sit here and tell me that they're going to be my next door neighbor. This company will not be my neighbor. They will develop for 3 years or however long it takes. They'll put in the perfect plans and then they'll leave and someone else will take over that landscaping. Do you really want me to believe that the next person cares about what tree we want or if we want that landscaping maintained? This is a developer. This is not a neighbor. Please keep that in mind. And also, please keep in mind that they're following ordinances set by the city. The city ordinance is about light, and maybe they exceed it here and there. But for the most part, they're following ordinances like any business that is making money would do. So that was property tax. If we move on to sales tax, really I haven't seen any numbers come about that the Scott County would benefit from any sales tax revenue. If this developer just built a restaurant in Peoria, I would think we'd have some statistics. I also think that it's up to the developer to prove why this should be rezoned. So it's up to him to prove that this is actually going to benefit our area, right? His next bullet point, avoid urban sprawl. So I'm new to this process. I've never really been involved, and I'm sad to say that. But everyone needs a reason, I guess. So this is my reason. I had to Google urban sprawl. I didn't know what that meant. So it is defined as low density residential and commercial development on undeveloped land. So in other words, low density residential development. I'm sorry, but we are R1, low density zoning. That is what our property is, R1 low density. So this is urban sprawl, I guess, if I've Googled and understood what urban sprawl means. And I also think he's trying to say that the city's plan for Veterans Memorial Parkway would also qualify as urban sprawl. Otherwise, we could go out there and build. The next bullet point, storm water control facilities will be upgraded and now provide protection from all major rain events. So I'd like to go back to their exceed comment, that they're going to exceed that city ordinance for water. Throughout the zoning committees, I've learned that what they're doing is much like many of the Walgreens. I think they maybe named Chipotle and then St. Ambrose. So it doesn't seem like they're exceeding if the zoning committee can refer to many other locations in the Davenport area that are using this same stormwater management. Also, I think they were trying to say that it would save the city some money. You haven't seen my neighbors here at these meetings before. We haven't been complaining to my knowledge about water. We're now putting our foot down because we don't want our piece of paradise paved over. We want it saved. For the most part, we deal with the water. Yeah, it freezes in the winter, but everyone in our neighborhood knows where it freezes, and you slow down, and you drive carefully. For the most part, I've never felt the need to complain to the city. I like my area. And as far as I know, and per Eric Longlet, Engineering Administration Manager, it's not in the capital plans for the city to fix our area. We haven't asked for it. It's not planned for. We don't need someone else to come in and fix it for us either. The next point that the lawyer made just in speaking at the zoning committee was that we needed, if this was not part of the original city 2035 development, which it wasn't. Ryan Rusnick, the city planner for the city of Davenport, he had confirmed that at least a month ago that this was not part of our original development plan for Davenport. So then the lawyer then asked, why shouldn't it be? Well, I didn't fight Costco because they were taking over a farm that was boxed in by residential, commercial area. That kind of made sense. That farm was starting not to fit in the area. But you can't tell me that this area is the only place for a 9,000 square foot restaurant. So why are we going to create another concrete structure in our city when we already have so many standing vacant? It's not like it's the only option. Those were all my comments. That's all I have.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public who wishes to comment on this public hearing? Step to the lectern, state your name and address or ward, please.
Hello, Brandy Otterson-Hurst, 4834 Fairhaven Court. I am opposed to this rezoning as well, and if you're like most drivers, you probably avoid this area on East 53rd Street because of the traffic, especially during rush hours. So if you don't live in this area of Lorton and Fairhaven, or have driven through our neighborhoods, I provided you with some pictures to show you, since the developer in the past has only shown us treetops and rooftops of this neighborhood that they're proposing to demolish. Now, the first 4 pictures that you'll see, you can see there's dozens of mature trees there. You can't find this in most neighborhoods. They're home to many animals, and it's hard to believe because we're so close, to Elmore and 53rd Street. We have deer, we have coyote, we have fox, owls, bats, rare birds. And so when you take away these trees, you're taking away their homes too, their food source. These trees are breeding grounds for many of these rare birds. And we're just nibbling away at these neighborhoods when we should actually be preserving them. And that's why I'm kind of surprised we're even here arguing, because that's what the city promotes. It's on your front door of City Hall. Preserve America. Welcome to Davenport. I mean, I don't feel like that's what we're doing here. These wooded neighborhoods, which are rare, it's what attracted all of us to our neighborhood. And you could see why if you drove through there. People are in awe when they come visit our homes. They can't believe that we have these large wooded lots with all this, wildlife so close to 53rd and Elmore. And those trees, that's a noise barrier to 53rd Street. There are so many mature trees. It will take, centuries to get them to that tall again, to that big, I should say. But, a 6-foot fence, which is what they're proposing to keep the noise out, that can't keep out, the trees. It doesn't even equal out. A 6-foot fence can't keep the noise out like those trees. And the argument in the past has been voting on this 2035 vision plan that includes this sit-down restaurant, the fast food restaurant, and the retail business. Well, take a look at the last 3 pictures. 1 block east, 2 businesses sit empty there. 1 block west of Jersey, this is for that proposed site, there's a large strip mall there, fairly new, 5 empty businesses, and they've been empty for a while now. I know a few of them have been empty for more than a year, and that includes a sit-down restaurant. So why build another retail business when this has sat empty for more than a year? Why would you tear down mature trees, nice homes, and the vision to replace them with a fast food restaurant and retail a few years later, you know, and they're sitting empty. It just doesn't make sense. And I mean, this is what attracts folks to the city, not empty storefronts. Again, we should be preserving it. There's plenty of space available for new business all over the city. You know, again, I only showed you one block east and west of this proposed site. We have Veterans Parkway, a restaurant at Toys R Us site. I mean, that seems ideal. Why should we be threatened by a business that comes in and says they're only going to locate in this one particular area or they'll leave? I mean, that doesn't sound like a good neighbor to me. That kind of sounds like a bully. It's been said this area deserves to be commercial because everything else that's been developed along East 53rd Street. But these other businesses that have been developed in the last few years, they weren't neighborhoods. They were farm fields. And I don't remember this many homes or trees being torn down for development along this stretch of road like ours in our neighborhood. We were here first. It's zoned residential. It should stay residential. So, you know, the city needs to take down the sign on the front door if we aren't living up to the message of preserving Davenport. So please consider all of us homeowners who would have to deal with the increased traffic, the safety issues, especially when my elementary-aged kids have to get off the bus and walk a longer distance because they're closing Fairhaven Road. Because I've already called the bus service. They will not come down to my cul-de-sac and the bus won't turn around. So now, you know, my kids are walking on no sidewalks, flooded streets, and then we're talking about more speeders because they're going to be cutting through Lorton to get off of 53rd Street. That's a quick way to get through there. So put yourself in our shoes or our house, driving by, seeing these nice homes, beautiful trees. It looks better than storefronts. Preserve our neighborhood, or we'll be seeing more people moving to the premier city instead of ours. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public who wishes to comment on this public hearing? Seeing no one, I move to close the public hearing. There's a motion and a second. All in favor? All opposed, same sign. This public hearing has been closed. The second public hearing this evening is a public hearing for the ordinance for case number ROW 18-01, being the request of William Torsha on behalf of WCT Investments, Davenport Series LLC, for the vacation abandonment of 0.34 acre, more or less, of right-of-way known as Fairhaven Road, extending approximately 285 feet south from East 53rd Street to facilitate commercial development. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to comment on this public hearing?
Michael Malloy, attorney for residents on Lorton Avenue in Fairhaven. We have a situation here where the developer is obviously developing residential property because it's cheap land. And at the same time, they want to take 3/4 of an acre of public right-of-way and convert that into private property for this particular development. If the council decides to vacate this particular area, they should also correspondingly vacate the Lorton Avenue right-of-way from 53rd Street south down to the same level as this proposed vacation. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. They want to take a public right-of-way street and take it for free, but they want to leave open Lorton Avenue because they don't care about the neighborhood to the south and the traffic problems that this is going to generate on Lorton Avenue. This particular vacation should be voted down by the city council, or if it is approved, Lorton Avenue should be vacated also. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else from the public who wishes to comment on this public hearing? State your name and ward or address, please.
Adam McWilliams, 5th Ward. Even though I don't live in the area, but I do travel through there quite a bit, a couple times a week. I'm with all the neighbors and opposed against this, but maybe, a different location would be, better for Portillo's to still be in Davenport, but this isn't the right location for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public who wishes to comment on this public hearing? Seeing no one, I move to close the public hearing. There's a motion and a second. All in favor? All opposed, same sign. This public hearing is closed, and that concludes community development public hearings this evening, Your Honor.
Thank you very much, Alderman Grip. We're now going to move our second two public hearings in Public Works, and Alderman Ambrose will lead that discussion.
Thank you, Honor. I open the first public hearing on the plans, specifications, form of contract, and estimated cost for the Miracle Field of the Quad Cities. Anybody wishing to address this, please come forward. Hearing and seeing no one, Your Honor, I move to close this public hearing. All in favor? Opposed? That closes this public hearing. The second public hearing is on the plans, specifications, form of contract, and estimated cost for the 2018 Myrtle Street and Johnson Avenue resurfacing project. Anybody from the public wishing to address it, please come forward. Hearing and seeing no one, Your Honor, I move to close this public hearing. All in favor? Opposed? It closes this public hearing. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Alderman Ambrose. We have many petitions or communications from any of our council members or the mayor. Alderman Dickman.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just wanted to remind everyone that the mayor and council are still looking for community members to lead youth summits. We're still working on that process of engaging the community. We want to make it a holistic process and make sure we truly understand the issue before we start engaging solutions. So if you are interested at all in hosting a community gathering to talk about some of the challenges that we've been facing with youth and criminal activity, please reach out to us and we will help you get that set up. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Dickman. Alderman Mattson.
Thank you. Following up on that, I just want to thank the mayor and make people aware the leadership that he's providing, because I don't know the number, 20 some, 30?
Groups?
Yeah.
Close to 25.
25 groups he's leading and is really sincere about trying to figure out what's going on and listening to folks. And I've been here a while on council, and that's a pretty big deal to do that. So I just want to express and hope everybody is aware that he's going to all these and doing that, and all my colleagues who are supporting that please participate. This is a great thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Mattson. I would just share that thought is that we need to make sure everybody in the community has a voice, and that's what this is really all about. So when we're done, we'll probably have close to 450 people to 500 people that will have an opportunity to give their input, and then we will be reporting in August. We're working on finalizing a date, but reporting in August as to what we've heard, and then a strategy for moving forward to trying to find solutions. So I just wanted to thank you, Alderman Dickman and Alderman Mattson, for your participation, as most of my colleagues, all of my colleagues are involved with that. So thank you. Are there any other communications from any council members? Seeing none, we're going to move on to our discussion agenda. This is an area, again, where individuals will have a chance to give their comments on that particular item on the agenda. Our first area to be discussed will be community development. Alderman Grip will lead that discussion, and Alderman Kluhl will set the agenda.
Thank you, Your Honor. I was getting ahead of myself. We have 6 items on the agenda this evening, and we'll start with item number 1, which is a third consideration, ordinance for case ORD 18-02, amending Title 17 to incorporate a zoning component to promote and create a commercial identity for the Rockingham Road corridor through design and use standards. This text amendment will include a map amendment for the area along Rockingham Road from John Fell Drive in the southwest and to Marquette Street in the northeast portion of the corridor. City of Davenport is the petitioner. Chapter 17.60 of the Davenport Municipal Code allows for text and map amendments. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to comment on this item? Anyone from the council? Seeing no one, this item will move on. Item number 2 is a third consideration, ordinance amending various sections of the Davenport Municipal Code to bring uniformity to the process of licensing and permitting for right-of-way encroachments. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to comment on this item? Anyone from the council? Seeing no one, this item will move on. Item number 3 is a second consideration ordinance for case number REZ 18-06, being the request of Tim Schaefer of Schaefer Automotive Service LLC, doing business as Dale's Service, for a rezoning on 4,380 square feet acre of property known as 1909 North Zenith Avenue. The rezoning is from R3 Moderate Density Dwelling District to C2 General Commercial District to provide parking for the associated business Dale Service Center. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to comment on this item? Anyone from the council? This item will move on. Item number 4 is a second consideration ordinance for case number REZ 18-07, being the request of Tim Schaefer of Schaefer Automotive Service LLC, doing business as Dale Service, for a rezoning on 6,000 square feet more or less of property known as 3816 West Locust Street, located north of West Locust Street and east of North Zenith Avenue. The rezoning is from R3 Moderate Density Dwelling District to C2 General Commercial District to provide parking for the associated business Dale Service Center. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to comment on this item? Anyone from the council? This item will move on. Item number 5 is the first consideration ordinance for case number REZ 18-08, being the request of William Torsha on behalf of WCT Investments, Davenport Series LLC, for a rezoning on 6.5 acres, more or less, located along the south of East 53rd Street and east of Lorton Avenue from R1 Low Density Dwelling District to PDD Planned Development District to facilitate commercial development. So I would remind the public that this was first discussed earlier in the meeting as a public hearing. It is now back on the agenda. You can come up. You can repeat the same thing that you told us earlier, or we heard your concerns and the council will discuss. If you thought of something new during the time when other people were discussing, you're welcome to come up and reiterate your points. Otherwise, council will have discussion. State your name and address or ward, please.
Travis Unterzuber again, 6th Ward. What I want to remind you is that while we've heard quite a bit from engineers and staff and attorneys retained by Torsha, and we've had a lot of discussion about Portillo's as a potential tenant, the vote in front of you is simply to rezone this property based on the Zoning Commission's recommendations. You are not voting on a developer. You are not voting on a Portillo's restaurant. All this is rezoning. And I don't know what agreements may or may not have been signed between the developer and the property owners, but all that could come apart. Let's just think about what happened across the river with our friends in Rock Island and all their efforts with development. And so I just remind you, you're simply voting on rezoning as you move this ahead for additional considerations. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Michael Malloy, attorney for 12 residential property owners directly south of this development. I would suggest that the City Council consider making a motion to amend the conditions on the Portillo's rezoning to include the 5 conditions that the residential landowners have proposed for this particular rezoning. This would be an appropriate time to do so if one of the council members would make that motion. Thank you.
Is there anyone else from the public who wishes to comment? State your name and address or ward, please.
Patricia Bruner, 4840 Fairhaven Court. I would just like to mention that I'm sad to see that a lot of my neighbors aren't here tonight. We had great turnouts for the zoning committees. I don't know if you guys watched any of those online, but we had really good turnouts. I think I want you to just know that I think our neighborhood has given up at this point, and that's why they're not here. But there's a few of us that haven't given up. I would say that the reason they gave up is because they don't believe that the city will hear what they had to say and do anything about it. So I just wanted to mention that we've had really great turnout up until this meeting.
Thank you. State your name and ward or address, please.
Charlotte McManus, 4728 Lorton Avenue. And I've tried to be a spokesperson a little bit for all my friends and the people I know on Fairhaven, 51st, 53rd. Not all of them want to come before a group and state what their objections are and how worried they are. But I want you all to know my main concern is safety. You have to know that the traffic, what is going to happen with the traffic patterns, is just going to be out of hand. And I don't care how many reports they've given you on what this traffic, that it will be minimal and this and that. It is going to be maximum, and it's going to start very soon when 53rd has their lane closed to put the turn into Costco. If you believe all these traffic reports that are coming your way that are not accurate, it's kind of like Trump's one negative thing he said yesterday or 2 days ago in Helsinki. If you believe that, then you can't believe all this, and the traffic is going to be very detrimental to our area, and you better know it, and you have to understand it and why we are so upset. It'll lead to fatality of something, even if it's just an animal, but worse, a human being or me. So please take into consideration what we've been telling you. I know it's hard to give up what you believe in business and everything, because the rich person always wins, it seems. But people are important, and lives are important. So think of the traffic situation, and don't just believe everything you hear that it's just going to be rosy, because it isn't. Thank you.
Craig McManus, 4728 Lorton, and we would certainly invite all of you people out to see our properties, to see our streets, to see the flooding, to see everything that's going on out there. And I'm a salesman by profession, and so I can give you a good pitch. But anyway, please come visit us and at least take a look at what we're faced with and what we're trying to do. Rich, you might come again, buddy. Thank you.
Hi, Your Honor. My name's Ed Piper with Novak Construction. I'm actually in charge of building the Costco project. I'm not sure if this is the time to ask, but hearing all the residents in the area and being a part of, or maybe even a cause of, some of this traffic jam, and I do apologize to everybody, and I give 100% of my attention out there to make sure that any track out, I think it was Alderman Grip or somebody that I got an email from on some of it, we address it right away. I do understand how important this road is to the city of Davenport and to the homeowners. I'm a homeowner myself, and I guess I wouldn't be happy. There's an ordinance, and I was hoping to get a variance on this ordinance, which it sounds would possibly help some of the traffic that's happening on 53rd. We're soon to start the turn lane to our Costco project, and
yeah.
This is another topic.
I think you're, yeah.
Am I jumping ahead? I'm sorry.
So, yep, I think
do that a lot.
Okay.
I will call you up. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
All right. We got there. Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to comment on this item? Anyone from the public? I'll open it up to council conversation. Alderwoman Dickman.
Thank you, Your Honor, and thank you to everyone who came and spoke. I have to say I'm honestly very genuinely impressed with just how much homework everyone did and came in prepared with. You really looked at the data, and I think that that's something that we all appreciate. We want to make the decision that is best for Davenport. The Attorney Pasternak has actually been here. I think I counted for the 7 previous meetings on a different topic, so I found that kind of amusing as she got up to speak. I was like, you're still here? Oh, great. But I do think that there were a couple things that I picked up and was working on writing down to make sure that we paid attention to, and that this is a development, and so to make sure that we're doing the upkeep, to make sure that we're respecting the neighbors no matter what happens. this is going to be something that our staff are going to have to stay on to make sure our ordinance are continuing to be held to. And I'm sure that is something that they will continue to do, because we will continue to hold them to that standard, and hopefully all of you will continue to hold us to that standard. That it's citizen oversight that makes government work, and you're doing that now. Hopefully you'll continue to do that in the future. Did note that the site selection process, that's something that business owners do that I have not had the opportunity to do myself. I've asked about it multiple times when it comes to, well, I really wish I would have something over, I live pretty close to Northwest Boulevard, and it'd be really great to have some extra shopping there. And the walkthrough that I've gotten is basically that businesses choose a place, and they either want that place or they're looking at things that are not the same things that I'm looking at. So in this situation, I would actually like staff to give us a recommendation about the proposed conditions, the 5 proposed conditions that the attorney has made. Is that something that we could get a recommendation on?
We can review it and come back with some suggestions.
Okay, that would be great. But I'm looking forward to the continued discussion. This is just a first consideration, so we have 6 more weeks to tweak it and hopefully get as much progress towards everyone being happy as possible. Thank you.
Alderman Klool.
Yeah, just as Alderwoman Dickman said, I think folks from the 6th Ward have come forward very articulately and spoken about the issues, and I appreciate that. And Charlotte, I wouldn't let 10 years stand between you and running for office. I think that justice for the people and by the people, and I thought about that, and I thought what Charlotte must be thinking is justice to the people. And I think, and this came up with several comments tonight, people concerned that the council has already made up their minds in terms of what's going to happen. They haven't. And your comments tonight will certainly bear on the decision that the council makes in the next 5-6 weeks. I did want to just say there's so many things that could be said here, and I'm glad that and my time is up, so I'll give a. The good thing about being an alderman is that parliamentary rules allow you to speak on for a certain amount of time anyway, more than 5 minutes, but I won't. There are a lot of considerations here. I think the proposal for the amendment by Attorney Malloy is something that certainly can be considered, if not all of them, perhaps some of them, if not any of them, some of them in part, perhaps, but certainly those should be considered because I'm sure that they've been well thought out over time. I know that when Plan and Zoning talked about this issue, we talked about the fact that it was a 5-4 decision, and there was a lot of discussion. It was a long discussion. One of the issues that I felt, because I attended, one of the big issues for them was water management. I think there was a big concern that there was going to be, with the addition of Costco and the development between Fairhaven and Lorton, that there was going to be a great deal of water coming down that the city wasn't prepared for. In my listening to the neighborhood meetings and looking at the data, the retention program that this developer has proposed is certainly exceeds anything that I think any other developer probably would come forward with. It's a good program. It's going to hold a lot of water that otherwise would have come downstream to us. And part of that is the result of staff having prepared a water management plan that is right for the 21st century. There's no more water going to come off of that property than is now with the development. And that was good management on our part. So I appreciate that. What I would, at this point, all I want to say is that I think that the city does have legacy issues to take care of. A lot of those came up during the neighborhood meetings and the plan and zoning meetings. What about the plug culvert? What about some of the erosion issues that are going on? So I wonder if somebody from staff would be prepared to come forward and talk about those existing issues that Travis talked about that already are there, and that what plans we have for trying to make sure that those issues that we already have are taken care of before development occurs.
Brian Shad, Public Works. We are, throughout Public Works, various divisions are looking into these issues, finding out what can be handled in-house, what's more appropriate for contract issues, et cetera. I wish I had a little bit more information for tonight, but we'll keep the council appraised.
Yeah, Brian, and I know that you weren't at the neighborhood meeting, I believe, when we had those issues, so I'll bring some of those up and give those to you, the considerations to be made, because as 6th Ward Alderman, I feel that it's my responsibility to make sure that those legacy issues are taken care of, and I plan to work with staff to make sure that we do take care of the neighbors there on Lorton and Fairhaven. Thank you, Brian. That's all I have at this point. I do look forward to continued discussion over the upcoming weeks in terms of this decision. I think it's an important decision. I do want, Patricia, I want you to know that the comments that I made to you were my feeling at the time. It's not meant to indicate the position of the council at all. I do believe that 53rd is a commercial corridor. You know, I talk to younger people, I'm talking about people of your age, 30, who remember when that was a gravel road. The times have changed. It's never going to be a gravel road again, and there are some issues that we're going to have to face up to and say, well, times have changed. We just had this issue most recently with THF development out on Elmore. 7 council members were of the belief that, yes, times have changed and it's time for THF to update their response to what's going on in Davenport in terms of being a developing city. So anyway, I just want you to know, I want to make it clear that this is in no way a done deal, that this council is listening. I'm certainly listening, and I know that the right decision will be made. Thank you.
Alderman Mattson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, to the gentleman who talked about zoning, sir, I appreciate your comments, but I've been on council for over 10 years now. We only discuss zoning when there's a project. You're right. It should be only a discussion about zoning, but we never have a zoning discussion unless it's a project that's part of that, because we just don't zone change randomly, really. So, and we have a rewrite coming, which is wonderful. But we have a zoning plan, but the zoning plan is up to the people sitting up here, really. So it's interesting that we always are told that, but the reason we're doing this is because of what's going on. So I wrote some notes, and I will say to everyone, thank you for coming that spoke. Again, being here a long time, I agree with Alderwoman Dickman. That's as researched and articulate as I've heard. To the lady in the blue, I hope you were on our team sometime. So that was good, because we always hear things. We always get in our heads what we're thinking, and then we have much smarter people than us sitting out there that come and tell us and educate us about stuff. I will be honest, when I heard the discussion of Portillo's, I had a discussion with some of the staff folks, and I said, what's Portillo's? And I've been to Chicago, and I know some of my our leaders that sit over there are loving this. Okay, so I looked at it, and then I asked my children, oh, Dad, this is good. Okay. But my point of saying this is, just because it's something, it's not an all-inclusive, and to your point, it's not a done deal, okay? If anybody remembers a couple years ago when we had the major discussion about an entity here and putting something in the middle of a residential area, there was a lot of discussion about that. There was a big discussion a couple years ago about putting a trucking company, for example, in the middle of a residential area. That didn't happen, but everybody thought it was a done deal. That's what we do here, and that's why I love the folks that sit up here, because we actually listen, I think, and try to to hear everybody's point. So thank you for coming. A couple questions for the developer maybe, and for staff, because this is a big deal here, and this is a big discussion. I've been to your neighborhoods. I've been to graduation parties in those yards, so I'm fully aware of your wonderful spots. My recollection, and people have said, well, equate Popeyes 10 times. So for anybody who knows what I'm talking about, when Popeyes went in, small little chicken restaurant over on Marquette and Kimberly, there were 2 to 3 hour lines of traffic when that, now it's not that way now, but that was the case, and our good police force and I and others actually stood on the street trying to help and understand. So question for staff, if you could, do we have a traffic study done by our folks? If we don't, I'd love to see something. What's your opinion on the traffic with this? Whether you incorporate Costco and this development or this whatever, but I'd like to see your thoughts, not tonight, sometime soon, on what you think about the traffic. There's no debate that this will increase traffic. I'm fully aware of that, but what are we talking about, right? Developer, sir, you heard the conditions that are asked. Are you, again, I guess if you're not prepared to ask it tonight, that's fine, but love to soon know your thoughts on what they're asking, and would you be willing to participate in helping with those? So I throw that at you, because there have been developers in the past that have helped with some infrastructure issues that are in and around neighborhoods. So I'd be interested if you think about that. To the staff, I'm pretty confident in saying we don't have anything in the CIP. That's yeah, Ms. Spiegel, you're giving me a head. I figured that was concerning this. So as we did with another major project that was in a residential area recently, and when it was done or when it was being discussed, we talked about some issues with roads and things, and yes, it'd be handled. We're still dealing with that. So those things that the residents are concerned about on the road, that's a big concern. So there's a lot of questions yet. I know we don't have money to fix these things ourselves, so I'd love to know the questions on the traffic. And your points are valid. And then another developer, I know we don't tell you where to go, what to do. I'd be curious to know, though, if you've considered other places around the city, as in some of our open spots that we're trying to get people in, other than this place. So there's some questions there. Look forward to your answers or things when you can. And then I look forward to the future discussion. But thank you very much for coming.
Alderman Ambrose.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. For the neighbors, thanks for coming down. We got a great staff, and, we're not ever gonna give numbers or projections that, our professional staff's not gonna be able to stand behind. The developer said he wants to be a good neighbor, and he's willing to do everything within reason. Your attorney's made some reasonable requests on behalf of the neighborhoods, and, everything will be considered. But what I'd ask from the developer, I've seen a lot of great developments that when the landscaping and the berms and the lightings were completed, a lot of times they enhance the neighborhood. So what I would ask is for the developer to do some conceptual pictures of how this landscaping, this fence, might enhance the neighborhood. I think that's a very simple request. And what's the traffic?
Alderman Ambrose, if I could interject just a second.
What's the traffic? And then I'd like to know what the traffic count is for 53rd Street after your project is completed. I think with this, you can do better than that.
Alderman Ambrose?
If we're going to protect the neighbors and enhance the neighborhood. Yes, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, and I'm sorry to interrupt you. I believe that the developer has a large number of renderings and a PowerPoint that they have ready, but we can also distribute those to everybody in the coming week. The neighbors have seen them. They were presented at the neighborhood meeting and to P&Z. So I would just ask they be distributed to the entire council.
Okay, and the traffic engineer, what's your projected count on 53rd after the project is completed?
Dave Wright with Traffic Impact Group. Current traffic on 53rd Street is 33,100 cars per day. Let's see. Looks like that we are projecting weekday. Well, actually, I have peak hour, PM peak hour, Saturday peak hour volumes, but I don't have the
Just give the
ADT.
give me the peak hour, please.
Peak hour on 53rd Street will be 4,971 weekday PM peak hour trips, and that's pre-development. Costco will add right at 600 cars to the peak hour weekday traffic, and the WCT development will add another 204. Saturday peak hour, Costco will add 831, and the WCT will add 307.
All right. Hey, thanks a lot.
Yes, you're welcome.
You know, nothing's is ever as bad as your vision, and of course, again, it's never quite as good as you envision. You know, I live off of Locust Street. Locust Street has about 30,000 cars a day, give or take, and it really has a limited impact to the neighborhoods and the schools off of Locust Street. When you talk about the number of traffic, you know, Reefy's isn't with us anywhere, but we all know Reefy's was a legacy restaurant. You know, they average 1,500 cars a day, and you know, that's from 6 o'clock in the morning probably to about 8 o'clock at night, and it really had very, very little impact to the neighborhood and to Locust Street. So I think we can get it worked out, and you know, staff will consider the recommendations the attorney has made, and we'll move forward. But it's so important that the neighbors continue to come down to the city council and share your concerns, because we do listen. Thanks.
Alderwoman McGinnis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to make a few comments. I'm not going to be here next week, and so I'm probably going to repeat some things that other people have said, but I wanted to get my comments out, you know, at this point in the conversation, because it's going to be a little bit shorter for me. I would like us to look serious, you know, what I'd like to see from staff. There's different parts of this, but I would like to hear a little bit more about the potential of a cul-de-sac on Lurton, and the light, a couple blocks back. I understand certainly the neighbors' concerns about, you know, I'm not one for cutting off neighborhoods, but this is an extraordinary situation. I'd also like to know from the developer's standpoint what they would be willing, again, to help in terms of financing the deadening if we were to cut these two streets. If this goes forward and we were to cut these two streets off, you know, what they're going to contribute to doing that, because we don't have the money. I also would like some sense of how close any of these contracts are, whether it is with the people who own property along 53rd or the potential, you know, businesses, Portillos or whoever. How close are you on those contracts? I understand that it's maybe a little bit of a, you have to know you have permission before you move forward, but it concerns me that you may not have signed contracts right now, and yet we're being asked to rezone this. So once you go there, it doesn't go back, and so that concerns me. And I would like to know. I would feel more comfortable looking at this if I knew there were where those contracts were. I'd also, in terms of the water runoff, I would like to know if I'd like a little more information about what you're planning in terms of any kind of permeable pavers or any kind of, besides the retention pond in it. I would like more discussion about the runoff, the retention of runoff that is being planned on this site. More specifics about that. Probably that from the city. And I would also like, this is an extraordinary site. It is a site with a lot of very mature trees. And I know it's much easier to go in and clear cut a site and start over. But if this is approved, it would make, if I'm going to be asked to vote on this, I would like you to come back and, if there are trees on the site that can be saved, I would like to see a plan for that. I know it's easier to clear cut, but we know what a clear cut site looks like, and it's ugly. And this is an extraordinary location, and I would hate to see all of that gone. So I would be asking and looking for that. I've not made up my mind about this, and I will be making up my mind in the coming weeks. But I need more from the developer, and I do need more from the city as well. So, thank you.
Thank you, Alderwoman McGinnis. And seeing no other comments from my colleagues, I will comment on my own and wrap things up. I have heard your concerns about this development, and traffic on. I hear a lot of people say, "What are you going to do about traffic on 53rd and Elmore?" All traffic is demand, and that is a high demand corridor. That is the highest demand corridor in the Quad Cities. It's our commercial corridor, it's our shopping corridor, and it connects to two major interstates. Whether or not this development goes in or whether or not Costco goes in, demand on 53rd and Elmore is not going to go down in the coming decade. It is going to increase. We do have CIP dollars to widen 53rd, and some people think that is going to decrease traffic. It is not. Widening roads does not decrease traffic, it increases demand. So, for the foreseeable future, 53rd and Elmore is going to be the busiest corridor in the city of Davenport and the Quad Cities. I'm also not as concerned with the folks who sold or are selling, have agreements to sell their property to this developer, but I understand why they would. Because with 30,000 cars passing your front door every day, it might be better to get a good value for your house, and it makes sense, as has been said several times, that 53rd is a commercial corridor. But what I am concerned about is the folks who own property and will remain with this development, and I want to be sure that we are hearing their concerns. I think we have heard their concerns, that both the city and the developer are doing their fair share to make sure that these concerns are addressed. The two big ones specifically for me is water management, and I definitely want to hear staff's opinion on this plan, specifically related to water management, that no harm will be done to that neighborhood because of this development, and potentially is there a way to make improvements there. And then also the shielding. As the folks have said today, what's particularly important to this neighborhood is that although they're on this major corridor, that they also feel like they're secluded, which is an interesting concept. So is there a way to build this development and still keep that secluded feeling for the neighborhood? So that's something to discuss. I am willing to entertain the 5 restrictions that were suggested by the neighbors. Some of them I'm more willing to entertain than others, but I do have just a few questions I don't want answered right now, but if you can email us or the next Tuesday briefing, provide the answers. So how much would it be to reconstruct that road, Lorton? Just ballpark estimate.
Full urban, because right now it's not a city street.
Up to
so curb, gutter, sidewalk, full 9.
Yeah, I mean, you could also do keeping it as the kind of rural asphalt road. Yeah, So you could do both. Also, what would be the cost for the cul-de-sac? How many complaints regarding stormwater have there been on Fairhaven and Lorton in the last several years? You can give us a pretty good estimate. I know Bruce can, based on the PDD that they've suggested on what type of tax revenue will be generated on this. I'd like to see that because I do like to look at the numbers of development and what we end up getting tax revenue, and does it pay for the infrastructure. And then confirmation that Portillo's is in fact not receiving anything from the city. I know that. I would like you to confirm that so the residents have that, that they've been assured.
There is no proposed incentive for this development.
Okay, thank you. And then I wanted to be clear, the resident did say, well, what I think she said, so I want to clarify, is that in the 2035 comprehensive plan, that this was not PDD, or it was not commercial, or it was not, or it was residential. So let's just make sure that that's clear. So those are my questions, and seeing no one else, this item will remain on discussion. And item number 6 is a first consideration ordinance for case number ROW 18-01, being the request of William Torsha on behalf of WCT Investments, Davenport Series LLC, for the vacation of 0.34 acre, more or less, of right-of-way known as Fairhaven Road, extending approximately 285 feet south from East 53rd Street to facilitate commercial development. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to comment on this item? Anyone from the council? Alderman Mattson.
Just curious, why are you asking for this? I mean, I've heard things, but so I'd like to.
Devin Birch again. Honestly, it was not our idea. It was suggested that as a possibility to alleviate some concerns of traffic in that neighborhood down there. Since it's not a through street, it is a cul-de-sac. What would you guys think about a vacation of that and develop across? And to be honest, we loved it. You know, we jumped at it and we ran with it, and within a couple of days had a new plan. So that's just the honest answer.
Thank you.
You bet.
Same thing from.
It was suggested by staff.
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry.
And then to the what's your thoughts? If you don't want to answer today, that's fine.
Michael Malloy, attorney for the residents south of this project. As I mentioned earlier, we think that if Fairhaven is vacated and closed off, as shown in the pictures here, that the city council should also consider closing off Lorton Avenue. You've got two streets here, and if you close off Fairhaven, that means that it's going to shift that traffic coming on 53rd that would normally go on Fairhaven to Lorton. So we think that you should either not do either one. If you're going to do this one, then you ought to consider doing the same thing for Fairhaven.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then staff, same question, the traffic, and put this as part of your, if this is your recommendation, put it in the big picture with all of the traffic thing. Thank you.
Seeing no one else from council, this item will stay on discussion, and I would ask that Alderman Klool set the agenda.
Thank you, Chairman Grip. I move that items 1, 2, 5, and 6 be moved forward to discussion. Items 3 and 4 to consent.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. That concludes the meeting for community development this evening, Your Honor.
Thank you, Alderman Grip and Alderman Klool. Just as for some of you mentioned, this is the first time here in this session. So in this area, the discussion agenda is just that. We discussed this. We haven't voted on this. What we've done is said if there's some items we still have, which were noted, that we still have questions on, They move on next week, and they'll be open for discussion again. Items that, as Alderman Grip mentioned in his meeting, some will move on. If they move on to the consent agenda, we just approve those in one group. So the ones that we noted we'll have open for discussion again next week. This is first consideration. There are 3 considerations, and each consideration takes 2 weeks. A meeting today was committee of the whole, and then a council meeting next week. So I want you to understand that this is a 6-week process for these ordinance changes, and we give people, again, plenty of opportunity to talk. So, again, thank you, Alderman Grip and Alderman Klool. We're now going to move on to our second area, which is public safety, and Alderman Rawson will lead this discussion and set the agenda.
Actually, Alderwoman Dickman will be setting the
Great.
agenda.
Thank you.
Just pull people in. So we have four items on the agenda this evening, and I'll start with each one and ask for public input and then council input before moving on. I'll just wait a few seconds till everyone gets out of the room. All right, item number 1, second consideration, ordinance amending Schedule 7 of Chapter 10.96 entitled No Parking by adding Pine Street along the east side from Hickory Grove Road, north 150 feet. Anyone from the public that would like to comment on this item? Anyone from council? Oh, that wasn't you?
Yeah, that is.
You want to comment? Okay, go ahead.
Just wanted to thank staff for working with a business owner that was not happy with the original plan that we had made for some safety considerations. We were able to work out something that satisfied our safety concerns and satisfied their business needs. So big thank you to staff for all their hard work on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderwoman Dickman. Item number 2, so that item will move on. Item number 2, resolution closing various streets, lanes, or public grounds on the listed dates to hold outdoor events. One item listed, Third Missionary Church Gospel Explosion Weekend Hoop Fest, August 10th through the 11th, beginning Friday at 1 p.m. to Sunday at 5 p.m. Closure location will be East 14th Street between Harrison and Main. Anyone from the public would like to comment on this item? Anyone from council? Seeing and hearing no one, this item will move on. Item number 3, a motion approving the request of Novak Construction on behalf of Costco for a noise variance beginning July 27th through August 11th from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. Monday through Friday to allow the pouring of the concrete floor slab for the new Costco wholesale warehouse located at 2790 East 53rd Street. So I did want to ask Mr. Piper, now's your opportunity to get up. Come on up. Introduce yourself, state your address, come to the podium. This is where you talk about your project. State your name, address, or ward, if you would, please.
Again, my name's Ed Piper with Novak Construction, and sorry about that earlier. But anyway, the project is progressing fast at this area, and I've contributed to some of the traffic problems, I'm sure, with the amount of in and out that we do with deliveries, which is just going to intensify as this project goes. So I am trying to keep that area clear for the public safety. The request of this is due to the amount of cement trucks for each pour session. It's a 9-pour schedule for the building pour out, and it takes about 65 roughly cement trucks per day. Typically, we pour these overnight. We prep during the day on a Costco project. This is my 7th project. So that request was, it was 2-part. 1, to help my schedule. I won't lie, but 2, to help reduce some of the traffic that's going to be accumulating on the street, in addition to all of the semi-truck deliveries that come to this project as well. Another alternative, maybe, if I know with the noise ordinance that's in effect, that is if we can possibly maybe start at 3 a.m. With that, if the overnight, the cement trucks will come into the building and they wouldn't be outside of the building. The washout dumpsters, I would have moved to the east side of the building to use the building structure that's up now as a buffer for noise to the condominiums that are to the west of us. Hearing everybody talk earlier, the subdivision that's to the south that seems to be in question with this Portillo's project coming does have a buffer of trees. I doubt very highly that they would hear any of this noise in the evening. So that's my request for the cement pours. The other part, if I can add too, is the lane adding that's going on too. Was hoping to reduce, and this is honestly to reduce some of the traffic that's going on. So we had recently put in the request to add the turn lane into the project, and that created a close-off from the fire department that's east of our project, and just, I don't know the name of the road that's to the south or to the west that leads into the condominiums, but it created a substantial amount of traffic problems. Not that we matter, but to the point where it takes us an hour to get out of the subdivision. But just from the standard of all the other cars that are backed up there, it's not helping the cause. So I was going to ask for a variance to possibly do that work in the evening as well, maybe when the concrete pours are going. So when traffic is at its lowest, then we don't have construction workers and public in the same right-of-way or, within that right-of-way, which is going to just create a lot more congestion in that area. So, that is our contract scope of work, is to do this work during the day. I understand what the ordinance is, and I'm not trying to cause problems, but I'm trying to alleviate a problem that I see occurring out on 53rd Street. So that's all, and just my apologies to all the homeowners around that I've inconvenienced, but we're almost done. We open in October. So.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public would like to comment on this item? Anyone from council? Yes, Alderman Mattson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So we've had, my experience with this type of thing is we've had other places that have either requested or done work at night, and it's caused huge concern in residential areas. We have an ordinance because it protects, and I know you, I don't know you, sir, but I believe you and say you're trying to be good and do that, but noise travels at night much more than it does during the day. I think I'm very concerned about doing this because then it opens a precedent that we do this for any projects that come. My experience again is with a couple other projects. We had one on 53rd when I first was on council that they were working at night, and it was a mess, and it was from a company from Minnesota. And then we had another experience with Menards where we had to go and physically stop them because it was bad, and both intended to be good, and they were, so I can't support this. I don't know about any of my colleagues, but you're still going to open in October, and we're happy to have you, but we do need to make sure that it's quiet at night. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Mattson. Alderman Ambrose.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Now, you said this was going to be done inside a building?
Yes.
Yeah, why don't you come on back? And you've done this before?
Yes.
Inside of buildings?
Inside the building.
Why don't you talk to us a little bit about the sound that you deal with there, because you got to pour a lot of concrete and, to get it cured properly.
So the process of this is, it's two-part. So the pour process is going to take about 8 or 9 hours. And the noise that you would hear with that would just be the simple beep of a backup of a cement truck. That happens overnight. The noise that you're concerned with is more from our ride-on machines that would grind or cut the floor to finish it. So that noise would be during the day from 7 o'clock in the morning through the evenings. It's more, honestly, of the traffic flow that I'm going to accumulate out at the street. And the noise that you're concerned with that backup beep would be buffed by the building as they're just backing up to the area of pour. So yes, the cement trucks will come inside the building. Typically, we run 3 or 4 trucks at a time to not have the cement sitting in there spinning too long to where the slump changes or any of the texture of the mix changes. So there wouldn't be this line of cement trucks out, 3 probably.
Yeah, if you had 6 trucks with the reverse beep going on. That'd be about as obnoxious as you can get, and that travels horribly through the neighborhood.
Correct.
But as far as keeping things, I don't see how you could do this project with that constant beeping from the trucks. That would have a huge, because I listen to people come in the morning, 4 and 5, with dumping the dumpsters, and that travels a long, long way.
Okay.
So maybe if you could address that, yeah.
I mean, we can cover the beat. I mean, that's about all I can do. I mean, so.
This is for the city administrator. Can staff go out and take a look at what and I don't know, maybe they have already, the traffic, and get kind of a professional opinion on how this thing, if it was to go forward, would work? Because that's a lot of cement trucks going and coming, but it's being done inside, so that's significant in itself. Maybe PD and traffic engineer to take a look at it. If we can put something together, that'd be great. If not, we don't want to be a bigger burden to the neighborhood than we all.
Just asking the question. I understand.
All right, thank you, Alderman Ambrose. Alderman Kluhl.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd just like to say that I appreciate your efforts to try to alleviate traffic issues on 53rd. It's commendable. I know this is my ward, and I've called about debris on the road. You guys have been quick out there to clean that up, and I really do appreciate that. But I'm also the guy that gets calls about noise, and I've gotten a number of calls about work starting at 5:15, 5:30 in the morning, contrary to code. And I'm working with staff right now to try to rectify that. I'm really very concerned about the fact that we're putting an imposition on people out there right now. You've heard some of the people's concerns that are living south of 53rd. I want to make sure that we do the right thing by those people, and I think the code is written for a reason, and I'm a living proof that there's a reason for it. Thank you.
Sorry, Alderman Kluhl, you threw me off with the I'm the living proof. I wasn't sure what you were referencing.
Let me explain that. There's a reason that we have a code that allows construction traffic between 7 and 10. I myself am living truth that there is a real reason why 7 to 10 is appropriate, because I get the calls saying, why is this construction traffic going on? So I myself am that person who could have said, this is what code should be.
All right, thank you. Alderwoman Dickman.
Thank you. Something that was mentioned was, basically this idea that it will be quiet because it's in the building and it's just the backing up of the trucks, which, if that is the case, if it really is going to be that quiet, then you wouldn't actually need the variance. So I am, I guess, a little suspect that it's as quiet as you might think. So just putting that out there.
Thank you, Alderwoman Dickman. Alderman Dunn.
Thank you. As somebody who's worked construction for the last 32 years, it doesn't matter what you do. It's going to be noisy. There's going to be a lot of complaints from the neighbors, and I wouldn't want to be the ward alderman to get all the complaints. I am curious as to, are you guys working Saturday and Sunday, or? Not Sunday, but you are working Saturday. I see in your schedule nothing's in there for Saturdays, so just wondered if that's a possibility.
Thank you, Alderman Dunn. Alderwoman McGinnis.
Thank you, Ms. Chairman. I'm not as long in this council as some of the other folks here, but, this is not something the city has done in the past. And with good reason, it sounds like. I think that people in Davenport who live in Davenport are very aware of our noise ordinance. I think we all get calls about even slight variations when it's being violated. This would be, I could not support this. I think it's unwise, and I don't think it works for the city. I think it sets a very bad precedent going forward. So I understand why, and I'm excited to have Costco here as well, but this goes too far.
Thank you, Alderwoman McGinnis. Anyone else with commentary? All right, seeing no one, I will wrap up. I just have a quick question, and then I'm going to potentially entertain a motion from somebody. Can you come up and, I'm just curious, I assume this schedule that you have cuts time off of the project?
No, it actually meets the project that already has time cut off. This is a...
Thank you.
It's been a long day, as it's been for you. It's a 110-day schedule, and that's pretty typical for Costco. So, yeah, we have 10 days to pour out the slab. And it doesn't matter if I'm in Green Bay, Davenport, Chicago. It's the same schedule.
So doing this at night doesn't speed up your schedule so the building is finished faster?
It's the same. I mean, I can pour during the day or I can pour at night. It really doesn't change the schedule.
Very good. Well, given the commentary made by my colleagues, I think I would not I'm not going to put this on discussion and waste your time, but I would entertain a motion to delete. Finish my sentence.
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's been a motion and a second to delete this off of the agenda. We're going to do a voice vote. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed, same sign. No one opposed? All right. That item will be removed from the agenda. Item number 4, motion for approving the petition for an alley light behind 1421 West 14th Street. Anyone from the public that would like to comment on this item? Anyone from council? Seeing and hearing no one, this item will move on, and if Alderwoman Dickman can set the agenda.
I would be happy to. I move that items 1, 2, and 4 are placed on the consent agenda, noting that item 3 was voted to be deleted.
All right. There's been a setting of the agenda and the motion and a second. All in favor? Any opposed, same sign? All right, we're done with public safety.
Thank you. Our third area to be discussed is Public Works, and Alderman Ambrose will lead that discussion, and Alderman Dunn will set the agenda.
Thank you, Honor. The first item of discussion is a second consideration ordinance amending Chapter 13.16 entitled Wastewater Facilities to include changes needed per the EPA pretreatment streamlining rule. Anybody from the public? I'll read all these, and then if people have questions, they can come up. Number 2 is resolution accepting the sanitary sewer, storm sewer, and pavement associated with the Westport Addition site improvements. Number 3 is a resolution approving the plans, specifications, form of contract, and estimated cost for the Miracle Field of the Quad Cities. Number 4 is a resolution approving the plans, specifications, form of contract, and estimated cost for the 2018 Myrtle Street and Johnson Avenue resurfacing project. Number 5 is a resolution accepting the grant offer of $6,357,536 and approval of the associated grant agreement between the City of Davenport and the Federal Aviation Administration in connection with the funding for the reconstruction of one runway 1533 at the Davenport Municipal Airport. Number 6 is a resolution accepting the grant offer of $76,547 and approval of the associated grant agreement between the City of Davenport and the Federal Aviation Administration and the visual approach slope indicator power cable relocation of the Davenport Municipal Airport. Number 7 is resolution of acceptance for the 14th District Interceptor Sewer Project completed by Valley Construction Company and the final cost of $1,016,834.67. And the final item is a resolution of acceptance for the Kimberly Road Sewer Replacement Project. Hey, who put those there? Completed by the Needham Excavating Incorporated, and the final cost at $236,703.21. Number 9 is resolution awarding a contract for the Northwest Boulevard and Hillendale intersection RISE project, RMX 1827-662-91-82, to Hawkeye Paving Corporation of Bettendorf, Iowa, in the amount of $357,974.26. Number 10 is a resolution awarding a contract for digester number 4 reconstruction project at the Water Pollution Control Plant to General Construction Incorporated of Bettendorf in the amount of $253,800. Number 11 is a resolution assessing the cost of boarding up buildings at various lots and tracts of real estate. Number 12 is a resolution assessing the cost of brush and debris removal at various lots and tracts of real estate. And number 13 is a resolution assessing the cost of replacing sidewalks at various lots and tracts of real estate. And number 14, the final one, is a resolution assessing the cost of weed cutting at various lots and tracts of real estate. Anybody from the public wish to address any of these items from the council? Alderman Clue?
Thank you. I just have a new alderman's question about why is there a resolution required for items 11, 12, 13, and 14? Resolution assessing the cost of boarding up buildings at various lots and tracts of real estate.
Alderman Clue, it's a requirement of state law when we're going to assess a property for work done at that property that it be done by council resolution.
Down to the point of brush and debris removal.
Yes, sir.
Seems very much like micromanagement to me, but so be it.
The state kind of likes to do that.
Alderman Dunn, please set the agenda.
I move to place all items on consent, please.
All in favor? Opposed? Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Alderman Ambrose and Alderman Dunn. Our last item for discussion tonight will be under Finance, and Alderman Tompkins will lead the discussion, and Alderman McGinnis will set the agenda.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm going to move this along with just one item. We have one item for discussion tonight. Number 1 is a motion awarding a contract to repair and replace a digester feed pipe at the Water Pollution Control Plant to Hometown Plumbing and Heating Company Incorporated of Davenport in the amount of $53,860. Anybody from the public wish to comment on this item? Anyone from council? This item will move forward, and I ask Alderman McGinnis to please set the agenda.
I make a motion to move item 1, the only item, to the consent agenda.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Any opposed? Excellent. Thank you. Then we have a list of items for informational purposes only of 10 items that have been purchased by the city. So thank you to staff for moving us forward with due diligence. And that is all that I have. Thank you.
Thank you, both Alderman Tompkins and Alderman McGinnis. We do have another issue to deal with this evening. One is a motion to suspend the rules and add to the agenda to vote on a following motion, and that motion is the motion to suspend the rules. And is there a motion to such a position?
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Rawson,
Yes.
Dickman. Yes. Mattson.
Yes.
Grip.
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Cluel.
Yes.
Tompkins.
Yes.
Dunn.
Yes.
Ambrose.
Yes.
9 yeses, Your Honor.
Thank you. Since we have decided to suspend the rules, there's a resolution closing various streets, lanes, public grounds, and listed dates to hold outdoor events, and that is Quad Cities Convention and Visitors Bureau, July 20 at 8 a.m. to Saturday, July 21st at 9 a.m., closing Beiderbecke Drive between Gaines and Marquette Streets, and Saturday, July 21st at 4:30 a.m. to 9 a.m., closing Gaines Street between Locust Street and Lombard between Gaines and Harrison Street. Is there anybody in the public who would like to talk about this? Seeing no one, any on the council? Okay, moving forward, will the, I'm sorry, I missed somebody. Alderman Mattson.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just a reminder, if you can, I know the Quad Convention Bureau is under new leadership, just to remind them of our procedures, please. Thank you. Or timelines.
And officially, I think we have to, will an Alderman move the resolution? It's been moved and seconded. Will you call the roll, please?
Dickman,
Yes.
Mattson,
Yes.
Grip,
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Cluel,
Yes.
Tompkins.
Yes.
Dunn.
Yes.
Ambrose.
Yes.
Rawson.
Yes.
And 9 yeses, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. Is there any public with business this evening?
Ed McWilliams, Fifth Ward. I just wanted to say thank you for resurfacing part of Marquette along Genesis West Campus. It was well overdue, so it'll look nice when it's complete. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there anybody else? Are there any reports of city officials this evening? Thank you. Is there a motion to adjourn? Moved and seconded. All in favor say aye. Any opposed, same sign. Thank you. Adjourned.